They'll say you were lucky. They'll whisper it was timing, coincidence, maybe even divine favoritism. But they won't see the nights you fought yourself into clarity. The mornings you woke up with a fire and no roadmap, just faith in your chest and defiance in your soul. You weren't given a golden path. You carved one with blood, sweat, and a mind unwilling to settle for average. Wealth does not respond to wishes. It does not bow to hope or good intentions. Wealth kneels only to those who command it with unwavering focus, mental clarity, and relentless conviction. It responds to the person whose thoughts are forged in discipline, whose beliefs burn hotter than doubt, and whose actions match their vision with ruthless consistency. You were not placed here to coast. You were not born to drift. You are here to build, to forge, to shape your life into something that forces the universe to take notice. This is not about chasing money. This is not about luck shortcuts or overnight success. This is about transforming your identity into someone wealth gravitates to. Someone who no longer seeks abundance but becomes it. The truth no one told you is this: wealth isn't something you get. It's something you attract by becoming the person worthy of it. When your mind operates at a different frequency, one tuned to clarity, purpose, belief, and discipline, wealth doesn't resist you. It recognizes you. It moves toward you like iron to a magnet because it has no choice. You are no longer begging for it. You are embodying it. Every empire began with a single thought, but not just any thought. A thought believed in so deeply that it restructured behavior, rewired emotion, and redefined standards. A thought held so vividly that the world itself bent to accommodate it. So now I ask you, what are you thinking? What are you believing? Because your current life is the residue of your past mindset. And if you don't change the way you think, the way you speak, the way you expect, then nothing changes. Not truly. Not permanently. You want wealth. Then start where it actually lives. Not in your wallet, not in your resume, not in your social media feed. Start in your mind. That is where destiny is drawn, molded, and unleashed. Every fortune, every skyscraper, every empire that has ever risen began not with money, but with a single thought. A vision. A whisper of possibility so strong that it refused to be ignored. Andrew Carnegie saw steel not as metal, but as the bones of the future. Thomas Edison didn't see darkness. He saw the death of it. Henry Ford didn't accept the automobile as luxury. He envisioned it as legacy in every driveway across America. These men were not born exceptional. They trained their minds to become so. They sculpted their thoughts with the precision of an artist and the resolve of a general. They obeyed their vision more than they obeyed their fears. They listened more to the quiet voice of purpose than the loud opinions of the crowd. And they did this not once, but daily, until belief became instinct, until clarity became law. You see, thought is not passive. It's not decoration. It is cause. And every effect you see in the material world is nothing but the echo of a thought once held with conviction. A man who masters his thoughts masters his fate. The weak allow thoughts to visit like wind through an open window, never anchored, always swayed. But the wealthy, they choose their thoughts like a king chooses his counsel, with intention, with scrutiny, with power. This is the beginning of all transformation, the moment you realize that your outer world is a mirror of your inner world. You want different results. Then plant different seeds. No more hoping for change while thinking in circles of scarcity. No more wishing for abundance while feeding your brain with doubt. No more wondering why things don't grow when you never tend the soil of your mind. You must begin to treat thought as sacred, as dangerous, as creative, because it is. Thought built the pyramids. Thought painted the Sistine Chapel. Thought split the atom. Thought launched rockets to Mars. So what will your thoughts build? The world does not reward action alone. It rewards aligned action that flows from belief, from vision, from a mind that has already seen the result in full color before it exists. You must live in that reality mentally before you can live in it physically. This is not fantasy. This is the blueprint of every builder of wealth throughout history. It begins in the invisible. It begins in the mind. And that is where your fortune will be born. Your mind is not neutral. It is either your most loyal servant or your most dangerous saboteur. And if you do not train it deliberately, the world will train it for you. One headline at a time. One fear-filled comment at a time. One limiting belief at a time. Most people wake up and hand over the reins of their mind before their feet even touch the ground. They check their phones. They read the news. They scroll through comparison. And they wonder why anxiety greets them before breakfast. It's because they are reacting to life, not directing it. Wealth is not born in reactivity. It is born in command. A trained mind is a fortress. It doesn't allow just any thought to enter. It filters with purpose. It guards like a king. Because it knows what enters the mind, enters the life. You must become the architect of your inner world, the designer of your own frequency. Do not allow your mind to tune into the chaos of the world. Most minds are like radios stuck on static, receiving every frequency of fear, mediocrity, and limitation. But the mind that attracts wealth, it is dialed in to clarity, precision, power. You train your mind by choosing your inputs. Do you flood it with gossip, scarcity, doubt? Or do you saturate it with purpose, vision, and the sound of your own future calling? You train it by creating rituals of mental discipline. Silence before chaos. Journaling before reacting. Meditation instead of scrolling. You don't let the world write your script. You write it yourself every day with intention sharper than any excuse. Most people want a different life, but they think with the same thoughts that built the current one. That is not transformation, that is repetition. You cannot break patterns by hoping. You break them by programming. Every morning your thoughts start fresh, but which ones will you feed? I can't. It's too hard. What if I fail? Or will it be, I will? I am capable. I create my outcomes. This is not just self-help talk. This is mental combat. And you are either winning or surrendering. The world is noisy. Doubt is loud. Distractions are endless. But the mind that has been trained, truly trained, becomes immune to the noise and moves like a guided missile toward its objective. Do not let the world train you to think small. Do not let the past convince you that it is prophecy. You have the power right now to reclaim your mind. And when you do, everything else begins to obey. The untrained mind follows circumstance. The trained mind creates it. Wealth is not a number. It's not a car or a house or a title. Wealth is a frequency, a mental wavelength, a vibration that only the aligned can tune into. Scarcity is the virus. It infects through language, quiet, insidious phrases like, I can't. That's too much. People like me don't get that. And each time you think it speak, it believe it. You tighten the chains that were never meant to be yours. Chains forged not of iron but of thought. Chains that imprison the mind long before the body feels the weight. Abundance begins with a whisper, a subtle shift, a quiet inner voice that dares to say, there is more, there is enough, there is a way. And those who become wealthy, truly wealthy, are those who listen to that voice when the world is shouting the opposite. Understand, this scarcity is a learned belief. A contagious fear passed from generation to generation, wrapped in the disguise of realism. But realism is often just fear wearing a suit. The wealthy reject scarcity. They do not see lack. They see leverage. They do not ask, can I afford it? They ask, how can I create it? They do not stop at obstacles, they decode them. Because to them, every challenge is a puzzle, not a wall. Failure doesn't scare them, it feeds them. Because failure to a trained mind is not evidence of inadequacy. It is data. It is direction. It is fuel. When your mind is trained to the frequency of abundance, you stop reacting to appearances. You stop measuring your potential by your bank account, your job title, or your current reality. You begin to move from a deeper truth, one that knows without proof, believes without evidence, and acts with power even in the face of uncertainty. This is not magical thinking. This is alignment. This is mental wiring. This is neuroplasticity meeting faith. You are not just thinking differently, you are becoming different. Scarcity shouts. Abundance whispers. But when you train your mind to listen for that whisper, to believe in its truth, to move in its rhythm, your life transforms. Because the world doesn't give wealth to the loudest, the neediest, or even the most talented. It gives wealth to those who are already operating at its frequency. So ask yourself, what are you tuned into? Because the frequency you live on determines the future you attract. Before a single brick is laid, the architect sees the entire structure. Before one line is drawn, the artist envisions the finished canvas. Before any wealth is earned, the wealthy see it, feel it, become it in their minds. You must build the vision first, not someday, not when the bank account allows, not when the world gives you permission. Now, today, within. You must create a vision so vivid, so detailed, that it burns behind your eyes every time you blink. A vision so real that your subconscious begins to treat it not as possibility, but as inevitability. That is how the mind works. It follows what it sees most often, what it feels most deeply, what it believes most strongly. This is why the vague dream of, "I want to be rich," is powerless. It lacks structure. It lacks teeth. It lacks emotional gravity. You must define it. What does your wealthy life look like? Where do you live? What do you build? Who do you serve? What legacy do you leave behind? Until your vision is sharp enough to paint, speak aloud, and live inside, you are walking blindfolded. Vague desires produce vague results. But clarity is the beginning of power. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Meditate on it. Rehearse it. Live as though it's already yours, not with arrogance, but with certainty. Certainty that comes not from the outside world, but from the decision you made in silence when no one else was watching. Walt Disney walked through Disneyland in his mind before one tree was planted. Elon Musk saw rockets landing upright before a single test. Oprah spoke of impact while she was still broke and unknown. You must do the same. You must believe it when no one else claps. You must walk through the promised land in your mind long before the map exists. And when the world calls you unrealistic, remember they called the Wright brothers dreamers too, until they flew. Your vision is your responsibility. No one else will hand it to you. No one else will protect it. If you don't build it, someone else will recruit you to build theirs. So every day before the noise, before the demands, before the world gets loud, return to your vision. Rebuild it. Strengthen it. Stretch it. Fall in love with it until your body starts moving in alignment, and the world has no choice but to follow. Because wealth is not given to the one who needs it. It is given to the one who owns it in their mind first. You can't plant seeds of greatness in toxic soil and expect them to bloom. Your environment, the people, the conversations, the energy you surround yourself with is not neutral. It is shaping you, programming you, feeding your subconscious in ways you can't even see. And if you're not careful, it will shrink you to fit someone else's comfort zone. The wealthy understand this truth. At a cellular level, you rise or fall to the level of your environment. Surround yourself with people who think small, who settle, who fear change, and soon you will find yourself lowering your standards to avoid making them uncomfortable. You will shrink your dreams, dilute your ambition, censor your brilliance just to belong. But place yourself among giants, among visionaries, executors, believers, and your mind will stretch. Your identity will expand. Your standards will elevate. Environment is not just about where you are. It's about what's being spoken around you, what's being normalized, what's being tolerated. Are the people in your life speaking abundance or rehearsing limitation? Are they pushing you forward or pulling you back to mediocrity? Are they sharpening you or dulling your edge? You must become ruthless about who and what gets access to your mental real estate. This isn't arrogance, it's awareness. You are not just protecting your time, you are protecting your frequency. And when you understand that energy is contagious, you begin to filter your circle like your future depends on it, because it does. This is why the wealthy invest in rooms that challenge them, mentors who stretch them, conversations that elevate them. They do not seek comfort, they seek growth. They don't need constant agreement, they crave perspective. They want truth, not coddling. Accountability, not excuses. If you're always the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If your environment doesn't challenge your mindset, it's reinforcing your limitations. So audit your space, audit your circle, audit your inputs. Is your phone feeding you comparison or clarity? Are your conversations breeding vision or complaint? Is your routine pulling you toward greatness or pacifying your potential? You cannot afford to be casual with your environment. Not if you're serious about wealth, because your environment is not just influencing your mind, it's installing beliefs into it. The good news, you get to choose. You can design your environment to be a greenhouse for greatness, a place where ideas thrive, discipline is normal, and thinking big isn't weird. It's expected. Build that environment. Protect that environment. Become that environment for others. Because when you do, wealth becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. You cannot install abundance on an operating system built for scarcity. This is where most people fail, not in effort, not in ambition, but in the hidden coding of their mind. They try to chase wealth while running on outdated programming that screams, "I'm not enough. It's too risky. I wasn't born for this." But listen closely. Hustle will never override belief. You can grind all day, but if your internal script still says struggle, then struggle is what you will manifest. Not because of fate, because of frequency. Your thoughts are software, and if your default setting is lack, you will sabotage every gain with self-doubt. If your identity is built on survival, you'll reject success even when it knocks. You'll call it uncomfortable too fast, not who I am. Because the mind will always seek to return to what is familiar, not what is better. This is why change feels hard, because it's not just about changing behavior, it's about changing identity, about uninstalling the lies you've inherited and uploading the truth you were born for. The lie says I can't. The truth says I create. The lie says I need more to start. The truth says I start and more comes. The lie says this is just how life is. The truth says life reflects who I choose to become. If you want to attract unlimited wealth, you must first become the kind of person who no longer argues for their limitations, who no longer identifies with the story of lack, who no longer builds cages and then blames the world for feeling trapped. You must sit with your thoughts and ask, where did this belief come from? Who told me that I wasn't capable? What would I do if I no longer believed that this is the real work, the unseen work, the rewiring, the unlearning, the reprogramming, not just reading affirmations, but installing them, not just visualizing success, but becoming it internally so profoundly that your outer world has no choice but to mirror it. This isn't about pretending, it's about choosing. Choosing a new standard, a new story, a new identity, because no amount of information will help you if your self-image is still wired to scarcity. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your beliefs. So rewire them, rewrite them, reclaim them, and watch how fast the world changes, not because it got easier, but because you finally aligned. Wealth is not something you chase, it's something you mirror. It is not the effect of your actions alone, but the reflection of who you are at your core. The money in your account, the opportunities in your life, the influence you command, they are not random. They are feedback, echoes of your mindset, evidence of your internal standards. You must understand this wealth is not the prize. It's the projection. The world reflects what you believe, what you tolerate, and what you demand of yourself, not occasionally, but consistently. You can say all the right things, but if your inner self-image screams, "I am not worthy," then you will unconsciously sabotage every win. You'll delay, you'll doubt, you'll deflect the very abundance you say you desire, because the universe is not responding to your words. It's responding to your identity. So ask yourself honestly, what do you expect from life? Not what you wish for. What do you expect? Do you expect struggle or success? Rejection or recognition? Just enough or more than enough? Because expectations are rooted in identity. And your life will never exceed the boundaries of the identity you wear every single day. The wealthy don't wait for their environment to change before they think like creators. They think like creators, and then their environment changes. They do not ask the world for permission. They show up with purpose, with clarity, with the presence of someone who already belongs in the rooms they walk into. This is the shift. Stop seeing wealth as something external. Start seeing it as something you radiate. A mindset trained for wealth speaks differently. It doesn't speak from lack. It doesn't joke about being broke. It doesn't associate success with guilt or greed. It speaks with certainty, generosity, responsibility. And when you raise your inner standards, when you refuse to speak in scarcity, think in limitation, or shrink in the face of challenge, you begin to create a field of energy that wealth is drawn to. Not by force, but by frequency. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. You're not saying I deserve this because I'm special. You're saying I've become the kind of person who creates this. I've trained my mind, my emotions, my habits. I've raised my standard. Wealth does not resist that. It respects that. And it begins to reflect it back to you in ways you never imagined. So raise your standard and watch the mirror change. There are two types of minds in this world, the consumer and the creator. One reacts, the other initiates. One waits to be fed, the other builds the table. If you want to attract wealth, you must stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a creator. Because the consumer mindset is rooted in need, in scarcity, in reaction. It asks, what can I get? What's trending? What do others approve of? But the creator mindset, it leads. It asks, what can I build? What does the world need that I can offer? What legacy will I leave behind? The consumer buys into the illusion of success. The creator generates it. This is the shift that changes everything. Because wealth doesn't flow to those who consume it, flows to those who solve problems at scale, to those who create systems, experiences, movements, solutions, those who initiate. Think of Carnegie. He didn't ask, how can I make a quick buck? He asked, how do I build a system that produces steel for a nation? Think of Ford. He didn't wonder, how do I make my product elite? He asked, how do I make my product accessible to everyone? These are creator questions, and creator questions unlock creator-level wealth. So ask yourself, do you spend your day scrolling or building, consuming content or crafting something meaningful, waiting to be noticed or moving like someone impossible to ignore? The consumer mindset waits for perfect conditions. The creator uses imperfect ones and bends them toward their will. And this is not about working harder. It's about thinking higher. It's about approaching each moment with the lens of, what value can I bring here? Because value creation is the only true currency in a world drowning in noise. Stop asking, what can I buy with my money? Start asking, what can I build with my mind? This is where the shift happens, not in your bank account, but in your identity. You go from someone who spends to someone who spawns. From someone who waits for direction to someone who writes the blueprint. Because the wealthiest people aren't chasing trends. They're creating timeless value. And here's the truth. You already have everything you need to start. Not someday. Now. With your ideas, your energy, your resourcefulness. You are not here to scroll. You are here to sculpt. Not to react, but to reshape. So stop consuming what the world throws at you, and start creating the world you were meant to lead. Most people dream of wealth for the lifestyle, the travel, the comfort, the freedom. But few are ready for the weight of it. Because wealth is not just reward, it is responsibility. It demands strength, structure, substance. If you want to attract wealth, you must become the person who can carry it, not just enjoy it. This is why true wealth doesn't come easy, and it shouldn't. Because it will crush those who aren't prepared, the undisciplined, the scattered, the ones who confuse money with meaning. For them, wealth is not a blessing. It becomes a burden that exposes every crack in their foundation. But for the trained mind, for the one forged in clarity, in integrity, in mission, wealth is an amplifier. It expands their reach, elevates their impact, deepens their purpose. You must stop asking, how do I get rich? And start asking, how do I grow strong enough to handle wealth? Because wealth will test you. It will ask, can you stay grounded when the spotlight comes? Can you keep your values when the zeros multiply? Can you make decisions not just for profit, but for principle? It will ask, will you use this for creation or destruction? Will you lead, or will you hoard? Will you serve, or will you collapse under the illusion of ease? The truth is, most people don't have a money problem. They have a capacity problem. They haven't built the mental, emotional, and spiritual infrastructure to sustain the life they say they want. So when wealth arrives, if it ever does, it slips through their fingers, like sand in a storm. This is why wealth starts before the money, in habits, in standards, in decision-making. You don't become wealthy when the bank account grows. You become wealthy the moment you start living like someone who honors their power, who doesn't take shortcuts, who leads themselves with discipline when no one is watching. And when the world sees that, when the universe senses that you're no longer chasing comfort but chasing capacity, it begins to open doors, not out of magic, but out of alignment. So stop seeking ease. Start seeking expansion. Expand your focus. Expand your discipline. Expand your ability to hold tension between who you are and who you're becoming. Because wealth is not just a reward, it is a crown. And only those who are prepared to wear it with purpose will ever be trusted with it. Wealth isn't found in fireworks. It's forged in the furnace of repetition. It's not built in viral moments, lucky breaks, or sudden windfalls. It's built in what you repeat. In the small, invisible, often boring disciplines that most people avoid because they're searching for shortcuts. But mastery is the language of the wealthy, and you cannot fake fluency. You want to rise above average, fall in love with consistency. Not with hype, not with motivation, with the mundane, the deliberate, the dull drills done with devotion. Read when others scroll, practice when others procrastinate, invest when others splurge, think when others react. Because every small act of discipline is a silent vote for the future you say you want. And while the masses chase the dopamine hit of something new, the master commits to the necessary. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagrammable, but it is inevitable. The market always rewards mastery. The world always notices those who are irreplaceable. And no one becomes irreplaceable without deep, focused, long-term obsession with their craft, their character, their clarity. But here's where most people quit. They confuse boredom with misalignment. They confuse resistance with failure. They think if it doesn't excite me, it must not be right. Wrong. That's the voice of your untrained mind begging for dopamine instead of development. Do you want comfort, or do you want greatness? Because mastery doesn't come with applause. It comes with invisibility, with long hours in solitude, with effort no one sees until everyone does. Think of Kobe taking thousands of jump shots before the arena filled. Think of Mozart writing symphonies no one heard for years. Think of any icon, any builder, any legend, and trace their steps back. You will find repetition. You will find grit. You will find mastery. This is what separates those who dabble from those who dominate. Not intelligence, not talent, not connections, repetition. You must fall in love with the process so deeply that the outcome becomes a side effect. That every day you show up not because you feel like it, but because it's who you are. This is the mindset of wealth. Not, how fast can I get there, but how deep can I go? Not, what can I gain, but what can I become? And when you master the process, the results bow to you. Not once, but reliably, repeatedly, unapologetically. Because mastery is magnetic, and the world pays a premium to those who command their craft. In a world addicted to immediacy, the rarest form of power is patience. Not the kind that waits passively, but the kind that chooses deliberately to delay pleasure, to delay praise, to delay reward, so something greater can be built in its place. This is not suffering. This is strategy. The wealthy know this. They understand that delayed gratification isn't deprivation, it's creation. Every time you say no to now, you are saying yes to something bigger, something deeper, something more enduring. This is where power is born not in indulgence, but in restraint. Not in chasing the dopamine hit, but in committing to the design of your life. Most people trade what they want most for what they want now. The quick win, the easy comfort, the shiny distraction. But the ones who build empires, they reverse it. They train their minds to see through the fog of impulse. They ask, will this matter a year from now? Is this moving me toward the life I've committed to, or pulling me away? Because the muscle of restraint is the root of all momentum. Every time you choose structure over chaos, intention over emotion, discipline over ease, you are building capacity, and wealth responds to capacity. Think of your time, your focus, your energy as capital. Are you investing it or spending it? Are you planting seeds or burning them for a moment of false relief? This is not about self-denial. It's about self-direction. You're not saying I can't have that. You're saying I'll choose when and how I want it on my terms. That's sovereignty. That's wealth at the level of identity. Train your mind to delay gratification, not because you enjoy withholding, but because you understand compounding. You understand that consistent choices stacked over time lead to exponential reward. You understand that the greatest victories are built in silence, in slowness, in sessions no one else sees. The broke want it fast. The wealthy want it forever. And forever is built one choice at a time. One not now at a time. One I'll keep going at a time. So the next time you want to quit, indulge, skip the work pause. Ask, who am I becoming right now? Because every moment of restraint is a declaration. I am not here for crumbs. I am building the feast. And when your mind understands this not as punishment but as power, there is nothing you cannot build. The journey to wealth is not a straight path paved with motivation. It's a winding road filled with emotional ambushes. One day you'll feel unstoppable. The next you'll question everything. And this is where most people fall, not because they lack vision, but because they trust their feelings more than their decisions. The mind trained for wealth does not submit to emotion. It honors emotion but obeys discipline, because emotion is temporary. Mood swings, frustration, doubt, fatigue. These are not signs to stop, they are signals to test your resolve. To see if you meant what you said when you made that promise to yourself. Everyone feels inspired at the start. Everyone feels hopeful when the vision is fresh and the energy is high. But wealth is not built in the first chapter. It's built in the middle when things get quiet, slow, heavy, unclear. You must learn to act independently of how you feel. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's wealth conditioning. Your mood cannot be the driver of your mission. Because your emotions are passengers, they can speak, but they don't steer. If you let them take the wheel, you'll end up in places your future self doesn't belong. So how do you pass the test? You remember that feelings are just weather, and weather passes. You don't train just when you feel like it. You train until it feels like you. You don't work when you're excited, you work because you're devoted. You don't show up for applause, you show up for alignment. And when the storm hits, and it will, you don't ask, why me? You declare, watch me. Watch me keep going when others collapse. Watch me stay grounded when the wind howls. Watch me keep the promise I made to myself long after the mood I made it in has faded. This is where the average tap out. This is where the uncommon rise. Because the wealthy know something most never grasp. Emotional resilience is not optional, it's foundational. Your ability to act when it's hard to move, when it hurts to focus, when chaos screams, that is the separator. That is what makes you trustworthy in the eyes of wealth. So when emotion comes knocking, let it in. Let it speak. But do not hand it the keys. You've got a kingdom to build. And kings and queens do not negotiate with their weakness. Desire is not enough. Hope is not enough. Even clarity is not enough. The world does not bend for those who wish. It bends for those who decide. There is a moment, a line that separates the dreamers from the doers. The moment when you stop flirting with the idea of change and marry the process of becoming. The moment when I want to be wealthy transforms into I will be wealthy no matter what. That moment is decision. Decision is not a feeling, it's a fire. It is the fierce, immovable inner shift that says, burn the bridge. There is no going back. It is the shedding of Plan B. It is the burial of excuses. It is the end of hesitation and the birth of movement. Think of the greats. Henry Ford was told the V8 engine was impossible. He didn't argue. He didn't debate. He decided and he demanded build it anyway. The engineer said it couldn't be done. He said, keep working. I don't care how long it takes. That is not arrogance. That is decision. Because when your mind is made up, truly made up, circumstances become irrelevant. Delays don't derail you. Obstacles don't intimidate you. The world adjusts to the level of your commitment. This is the problem too many people dabble. They commit in convenience, not conviction. They dip their toes in greatness, but never dive. But wealth is not attracted to the lukewarm. It moves toward the definitive, the all-in, the irreversible. When you decide you don't need constant motivation, you have momentum. You don't need perfect conditions. You command imperfect ones to serve the vision. You no longer ask, is this working? You ask, how can I make it work? Because you've crossed the threshold. You've chosen identity over indulgence, vision over validation, fire over fear. The world feels when someone has decided. It's in your posture, it's in your voice, it's in your choices, your energy, your presence. You are no longer hoping for abundance. You have declared it, and now you move like it's already yours. So if you're waiting for a sign, a guarantee, a moment when you finally feel ready, this is it. This is the line. Step over it. Because when you decide with every fiber of your being, the world has no choice but to respond. You keep waiting for someone to approve you, to validate you, to pick you. But here's the truth. The wealthy understand you are the guarantee. The moment you stop outsourcing your power, your permission, your proof, your pace is the moment you start moving like someone who cannot be denied. Not because of arrogance, but because of alignment. The wealthy don't need external confirmation to move. They are the confirmation. When the world says, that's too big, they respond, good. That means it's worth building. When others hesitate, they accelerate. When others look for signs, they become the sign. Because when your mind is trained, when your vision is crystallized, and your identity is solidified, you don't wait for conditions to be perfect. You command the imperfect to bend, and the world listens. Think of Ford again. Think of any visionary who changed history. They didn't need a consensus. They needed conviction. When everyone else whispered doubt, they roared forward with belief, not because the path was clear, but because their mind was. You must stop looking at your current results and letting them define you. You are not your balance sheet. You are not your past. You are not the fears of others projected onto your potential. You are the builder, the architect, the one who writes in bold strokes while others erase in fear. This is what it means to be the guarantee. You move not because the outcome is certain, but because you are. You lead not because you have all the answers, but because you've decided to find them. You show up not because the road is easy, but because your resolve makes the road irrelevant. People will question you. Life will test you. Distractions will beg for your attention. Delays will whisper lies about your worth. Ignore them, because you've already seen what's possible. You've already walked through the gates of your future in your mind, and now it's just a matter of catching up. This is not about becoming cocky. It's about becoming certain. Certainty rooted not in outcomes, but in identity. Not in hope, but in decision. You no longer chase guarantees. You become the one who makes results inevitable. Because wealth doesn't follow the loud. It follows the aligned, the calm, the clear, the committed. So move now, not like someone waiting for a door to open, but like someone who is the key. When your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions speak the same language, you become unstoppable. Most people live in internal conflict. They dream big, but speak small. They wish for success, but act in contradiction. They affirm abundance, but embody anxiety. That's why nothing sticks. That's why nothing flows. But when you're aligned, when your mind, heart, and habits move in the same direction, life begins to respond differently. Opportunities appear. People notice. Resources gather. Not by coincidence, but by consequence. Because alignment is the ultimate amplifier. You cannot attract wealth with misaligned energy. You cannot say, "I'm a builder," and then move like a drifter. You cannot visualize prosperity and then tolerate environments of lack. Your life will always reflect the strongest signal you send. And if your thoughts are broadcasting confidence but your behavior whispers hesitation, the world hears hesitation. Clarity without consistency is chaos. Vision without execution is fiction. So, what does alignment look like? It looks like waking up before the world demands you. It looks like writing down your goals and living like they're inevitable. It looks like investing in your mind, protecting your focus, and making choices that echo your purpose. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop making room for excuses. You stop allowing yesterday's failures to dictate today's power. Because when you're aligned, you no longer depend on hype or perfect timing. You move with precision. You speak with purpose. You show up with energy that doesn't flinch. This is not about fake positivity. It's about energetic congruence. The wealthy don't act rich once the money arrives. They think, speak, walk, and lead with the energy of someone who has already become it internally. Because wealth is not a goal. It is a state of being. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you make decisions, the way you respond when no one's watching. You don't become magnetic by trying harder. You become magnetic by becoming undeniably aligned with your highest vision. And when you are aligned, truly aligned, the world begins to rearrange itself in your favor. So ask yourself today, are your words aligned with your beliefs? Are your beliefs aligned with your habits? Are your habits aligned with your identity? If not, fix the gap. Because until you do, you'll feel resistance not from the world, but from within. And once you fix that, everything else becomes inevitable. Let's make one thing clear, this isn't entertainment. This isn't theory. This is not a motivational high you ride until life hits back. This is the rest of your life. You are one decision away, one from stepping into a reality where wealth isn't a dream, it's your default. Where purpose isn't an idea, it's your daily rhythm. Where effort isn't something you dread, it becomes your joy. But that decision has to be made now. Not tomorrow, not when things slow down. Now. In this moment. In the tension. In the uncertainty. The difference between those who live extraordinary lives and those who repeat average years until they die is execution. It's ownership. It's the refusal to let another day pass under the influence of fear, delay, or distraction. Repetition is the sculptor of destiny. You will not become what you visualize once. You will become what you install in your mind consistently, daily, obsessively, until your body, your environment, and your decisions catch up. And that's not magic. That's biology. The mind doesn't care about your dreams. It only follows your dominant signals, the thoughts you repeat, the standards you enforce, the emotional tone you normalize. So let this be the signal you are done with small, done with waiting, done with asking for permission to rise. You no longer scroll for inspiration, you generate it. You no longer seek comfort. You convert discomfort into clarity. You no longer fear rejection because you've already accepted yourself. The world will try to distract you. People will doubt you. Setbacks will mock you. But none of that matters when you have trained your mind to move anyway. Because here's what no one wants to say. The world is not set up for your greatness. It's designed to keep you in a loop of mediocrity unless you reprogram it, unless you rise above the noise, unless you claim your right to build something remarkable. So from this moment forward, let there be no more halfway, no more half-hearted tries, no more almosts. This is not a game. This is the mission. And if you take it seriously, if you train your mind, align your spirit, move with ferocity, and lead with discipline, then the wealth you once prayed for will become the byproduct of the person you've become. Not because you chased it, because you embodied it. Not because the world gave it to you, because it had no choice. You became undeniable. You became the magnet. You became the storm the world could no longer ignore. So stand up, lock in your vision, breathe in your purpose, and move. Because everything you desire is already waiting, and the only thing missing is you. If something inside you was awakened, if your heart beat louder while you listened, if a fire sparked somewhere deep where silence used to live, then don't let this be just a passing feeling. Let it become the turning point, because nothing changes until you do. And nothing grows unless you move. So here's your next step. Share this message. Let it echo into the lives of those still asleep. You might just be the spark they needed. Comment below. I'm ready. Not for attention, but to anchor your decision. Let the world hear your clarity. Subscribe. Stay connected to the energy that calls you higher week after week. Reminder after reminder. But above all, act. Not someday, not when it's convenient. Now. Take the first step. Write the vision. Show up like you mean it. Not because anyone's watching, not because someone told you to, but because deep down, you know. You were not born to survive. You were built to lead, to build. To elevate this world with the weight of your vision. So go, train your mind, and watch the rest follow. Because once your mind is wealthy, the world has no choice but to catch up.